They're in their huddle.
They're in their huddle, okay. So they'll kind of give us some highlights.
Okay.
All right.
Are they gonna stay out there until?
They're huddled at the moment. I think they're trying to figure out.
Just so you're aware, we are recording at the moment.
We are recording.
I can mute it, but I wanted to see one on the camera, so he's the only visitor at the moment.
Okay, so that's all set. Ed, you're all set?
Go back to bed.
Sound check.
Very good. Thank you. We can hear you.
Bye.
Unfortunately, I have no camera, so I apologize, but mic's good.
That's all right. We have a mental image now.
That's kind of creepy, actually, now that you say it.
Like, kind of 5 foot, like it was hard to 4 foot.
30 seconds, okay. They need
We're just
30
waiting,
seconds.
Ed, we're just waiting for the Laker bots team to come in.
They need 30 seconds.
Awesome.
I thought they were kind of talking about that.
A lot, actually.
Whoa.
Look at that team walking.
Where would you like us all to sit today?
Wherever there are chairs.
We can grab more if we need to.
Is
there enough room for everybody?
I think so.
All right, so I am reconvening the public session, the school board meeting. The first order of business, before we do the pledge of allegiance, I'd like to ask if there are any veterans in attendance here tonight. I know Mr. Twaddell is, who's online, but is there anybody in person here tonight? Because we just had Veterans Day, and I'd just like to say thank you before we do the pledge of allegiance for your service. So thank you, Ed. So let's stand to do the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great. Thank you very much. And public comment is now open at 6:02. Mr. Parsons, do we have anybody online?
We did not as of a moment ago, but let me just double check.
Mr. Parsons is my Mr. Solo.
We do not.
We do not. Anybody in attendance have any public comment? Seeing none. Okay, we will let that run. Next up, I'm very pleased to announce that we have the Laker Bots Governor's Cup recognition. And so, I don't know, Mary, if you want to say.
Well, I have a feeling that maybe the Laker Bots would like to share some of their highlights of this incredible victory. Would you like to start with sharing some?
Sure,
Okay.
thank you. Can I have all the Lady Bots stand up with me here? We have some of our leadership here today. Over here we have
Caleb.
Danelle? Ms. Lau?
Ms. Terrio?
And we're pleased to announce that at the recent Plymouth State University Governor's Cup, we were awarded the Governor's Cup Award, which is not a competitive award, but rather something a little bit better. And Leo could tell us a little bit about some of the reasons why.
Okay. So it's more, instead of just like about robotics, it's about like our community engagement as a team. So we did a couple of stuff this year to further our own engagement. We're working with ILES and SES for the FLL, like Lego League, which is like a smaller version of our program. We worked this summer doing trail cleanup with the Squam Lakes Association. We made a practice field last season that allowed other teams in the state to practice the competition if they didn't have the resources. And what else did we do?
We just hosted an event on November 2nd and November 3rd. We did Girls Behind the Glass, which was the first ever female event. We were promoting women in STEM by having all female drive teams. And so we did that with 319, which was the team from Alton.
And Danielle kind of led that charge. I'm kind of putting her on the spot here, but tell us a little about how the event came to be.
So this past spring for off season, we wanted an off season project and we made a woman. And our first project was building a second robot. And so it was like led by girls. And so we built like a smaller second robot that did like all the same stuff. And we competed at Summer Heat. And then from that, we decided to co-host a competition with 319 and for all girls drive teams and to kind of empower women in STEAM and give them like the chance to really get their hands on it.
So that's our presentation.
Wow, we would like to recognize this achievement because, you know, when the LakerBots program first started, we had high hopes and you guys are really making it happen. So first up, Caleb, if you come, receive your certificate of achievement. Well done. Caleb's also our board rep here. And we have Leo Cush. Leo, job well done. Thank you. Thanks for your explanation. And then we have Danielle Corneliuson. Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And Danielle did a great job. The robot had started to have some technical difficulties, probably from having had such a hard season, and you handled it with grace. And that's, you know, big part of it is learning how to handle things when things go wrong, and you did a beautiful job at that. And the whole team, that I think was the other piece, that the entire team was there supporting at Girls Behind the Glass. And I think that just speaks volumes for our LakerBots. You are a place of pride, and it is certainly the adults who also make that happen. All of the adults who give so much time, the mentoring, and it's great to watch them do the mentoring because you're not taking control, you're there as a support, you're helping to facilitate the learning and creating that very rich environment to do that. So I think you continue to be a place of pride for Interlakes. And certainly the Governor's Cup was representative of that whole package.
And this is all pre-robotics season. So
Yes,
just to have you for
Now they're
an
going
idea
into
of the
their
amount of
winter-
time that goes into this.
Your winter siesta?
Thank you, and I'll give
And these
you
are for the other members
the
of
rest of the team members. Yes, I think we're up to 24 now. A couple of additions from another school. I don't know if that's public, but we can talk about that. Is that okay to talk about?
We do.
So we have a couple of, one student from Guilford who's going to be joining our team this year, and another student from Moulton Borough, which has recently come that I think is going to be participating with us. I'd also like to point out that the Governor's Cup came with a scholarship for our seniors who participated last year to attend a University of New Hampshire school, Keene State, UNH, any of the New Hampshire public universities with 1 semester of tuition paid for, which is quite a lot nowadays. And I think that's all I have to say. So thank you very much for your recognition.
And maybe just a reminder that LakerBots now has a boosters club,
Yes.
and that the reason you're not seeing as many donations flow through the school district is because they're flowing to the booster club. And our hope is like, you know, maybe a couple times a year or once a year, at least coming and kind of reporting out so that you know what's going on. But the donations keep coming in, the grants keep coming in, and that is very much appreciated because that's definitely more work on many people's part. But it does provides a little relief from the SAU side.
Yes, and I would also tremendously like to support this community and the organizations that are supporting us, especially the boosters and the parents. We have a burrito fundraiser. I don't know if you've seen it on social media or through emails. We're getting close to sold out, so if you would like burritos, you want to order them sooner rather than later.
Are they big burritos or?
So I have Rachel, who's a parent and is in attendance and could describe the burritos.
Yeah, I am the burrito maker. They're usually a little over a pound. They're quite big. So I used to have a business where I made them. And so, yes, we're selling them in 6 packs. And, yeah, so yeah, and we're getting close to sold out, so that's really fun. They're frozen. Great gifts, stocking stuffer.
Something else that I think would be good for the board to at least be aware of that I think is helping the elementary level and an opportunity for collaboration is we have a bus now coming from Sandwich at the end of the day, and it stops at the middle high, it stops at ILES, and it did stop at Prescott Park, which is allowing our Lego robotics teams for SES and ILES to be together, which makes it easier for you to go down and support those teams. So that's been a nice reworking of some bus routes.
I have never seen Orion be more responsible with a sign-up sheet than the Lego
That's a good
robotics.
skill.
So thank you, Lake Robots. That's great.
Thank you.
Awesome. Good work. Good job.
Thank you, guys.
I would just like to mention a couple other really cool things. Many of you probably know that the women's volleyball team won the Division III in our state champions this past Saturday. We will have a more formal recognition for them in December. And I should also mention that this Saturday, our football team is in the semifinal game. They'll be playing Monadnock down there at 1 p.m. And so maybe we'll have two things to celebrate. We'll see. We'll hope for the best. Good luck to our football team. Mr. Terrio.
Mr. Terrio's list has been significantly whittled away at already, so.
So this is a good life skill to learn. You gotta roll.
So as you said, girls volleyball team won the D3 championship. Kira Moynihan was named the Division III Player of the Year. Kira and Cecilia Horncoal were named first team All-State, and Meadow True and Marissa Anastasio were named second team All-State. Cecilia, Meadow, and Marissa were invited to represent D3 in the Senior All-Star Games on November 23rd. Also, Guidance hosted New Hampshire Free Apply Day on November 8th. We had 19 students fill out free college applications to New Hampshire colleges and universities.
Great. Thank you, Caleb. Minutes of the October 8th, 2024 regular school board meeting. Anybody
And
like-
those are page 9 of your attachments. You have to go into the attachments section. It's a blue number 9.
Anybody like to move to approve those?
I would move them as presented.
Is there
I'll
a second?
second it.
Seconded. Is there any discussion or questions or comments about the minutes? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 All right.
Opposed? The minutes are approved.
Thank you.
Next up, we have current bills payable.
In your packet is manifest 3010, and I'm happy to take any questions if you have any.
Any questions from Ms. Doloff? I would entertain a
Ashley,
motion.
can you expound, please? I acknowledge it. It's grant money, but line 111736 and 111737, approximately 49,500 and 40,600 respectively.
The Omada Technologies, is that the first one? Is that correct?
Correct. Omada and Ossipee Mountain. I mean, switch replacement. I mean, I assume we're not talking about light switches here. Those are really expensive light switches. I don't know. I mean, I'm being a little facetious, but
Correct. So this is security and access control. That was part of the SAFE grant. And so it was upgrading that system. And the Ossipee Mountain, that actually is not grant funds. That was general fund. We had encumbered funds during COVID for safety. And this is what we used that for. We purchased about 50 radios with that and upgraded our current inventory.
Great.
Okay,
Other
and that COVID money is now expended, or is that 3-year money, 5-year money? Like,
So it's not COVID money, it was just during that period of time, the board had decided to encumber funds from end of year fund balance to carry forward to use towards safety. And that was a $50,000 purchase order, so,
We can
where,
get you the balance of what's left on that.
correct. If you.
We can provide that.
It's supposed
okay,
to be-
no, I was just, I mean, those are the biggest 2 items on the list, so that's why I'm asking.
Other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
We are approved. Next up, our enrollment report.
I want to double check. Mr. Twaddell, you were opposed?
No, not opposed. I am in favor of this manifest. No opposition.
Thank you.
I think there's a little time delay on the speaker, so apologies.
None necessary.
All good. Just worried Raphael might be ravaging your communications.
What does that mean?
I think
Oh.
Raphael, I think, went a little bit further east. So I'm actually closer to the Texas border,
Good.
kind of on the Texas side of the state.
Enrollment report, Mrs. Moriarty.
You have it in your packet. There's nothing significant.
Okay, any questions about the enrollment report? Hearing none, staffing update.
So just providing you a staffing update of where we are. We are looking for 7 paraeducators. We are looking for 4 custodians, 1 network assistant. And we are also looking for a speech language pathologist. We do have a plan in place to provide services at this time for speech language that we've been doing since the start of the year, but those are positions that we have open.
I got a call today from somebody inquiring about the speech pathologist position. I don't know how they got my number, but I directed them to Karen.
Excellent, wonderful. We look forward to making that contact.
Excellent. Anything else, Mary?
Nope, just information.
Okay, and then we have the year-to-date financial report. Ashley, you want to comment?
In your packet, there's year-to-date financial report. We are about $2.5 million available. We are still working on encumbering, so I do plan to see a shift in December with that number, but we are pretty much on point from where we were last year. And I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
And that's page 25 of the blue numbering system.
Any questions for Ashley regarding the financial report? Hearing none, we will move on to old business. ILSD growth and proficiency goals, 24-25 school year. Mary, you want to kick this off?
So I would like to invite the team to come forward. We are making continuous progress towards excellence, and I'm going to turn things over probably to Mrs. Papalardo to start things.
Yes, thank you, Mary.
Thank you, Mr. Parsons.
Just one second. I just want to make sure it's up online, and it is. We're good.
Thank you. So this evening, my team and I have the pleasure, I'm so sorry.
It's okay, thank
Come over
you.
here.
That's perfect, thank you.
We have the pleasure of updating the board with the work that we have been doing to harness the power of collaboration and data analysis to catch excellence. This evening, we're going to highlight a few points of influence that we're really proud of that speak to the work that we've been doing. If we were to kind of select a tagline that might summarize best where the district has been moving over the past 4 recent years, it would be that the Interlake School District is making consistent progress over time as we strive toward excellence. So that's the tagline that we're going to return to this evening with each of our stories. On this screen, we're viewing a 4-year history of the percentage of students proficient in ELA and mathematics on our statewide assessment. And the light blue lines that you can see that are trending in the upward direction support the tagline that we are continuing to make consistent progress. One of the things that we do each year to help us to make this progress is we set our North Star, and that North Star are our growth and proficiency goals. Our proficiency goals are in alignment with the state and federal expectations, and we also set growth goals so that we have more than one measure that we can use to assess the progress that we're making toward our goals.
After 1 second, Mark, can you hide that bottom?
I
Thank
can,
you.
but if I click that, you're gonna, might have to re-click, because we're gonna switch mics. okay?
Perfect.
Sorry.
No worries, thank you. And the building principals will speak a little bit more and they'll expand a little bit more on some of those growth goals that we've set this year. On this slide, this is really something to celebrate. It's quite a lot of information to, I'm sorry. I need to move. So on this slide, it's a lot of information to take in, but where I'd really like your eyes to focus on are the very dark green tops of each of those bars. So we're looking visually at mathematics, ELA, and science performance over a 4-year history in each of those content areas. So back to that tagline, our classroom teachers are not only increasing the percentage of students proficient, they are also increasing the percentage of students beyond proficient over time. That's something to celebrate for sure. There has been a lot of work not only in our schools, but also from the central office that has taken place over the last couple of years, and I'd like to highlight a few of those things with gratitude to the district for the support. We have been able to have more of a pipeline directly with our Department of Education, which enables us to share feedback and have a tighter relationship with one another. The Department of Education is open to feedback, and there are many examples that highlight how they have done this in recent years. One that I'd like to highlight is that they have invited New Hampshire teachers. They've actually entered a contract to invite New Hampshire teachers to the table to construct the test assessment questions that will then be in our assessment bank in the state of New Hampshire. Last year, this work started in science, and this year, this winter, it's going to expand to also include ELA and mathematics. So that's very exciting. We've also had a lot of support in the professional development that we've done from our state education consultants. In fact, Dr. Nate Green, who is a bureau administrator in the Assessment and Accountability Office, will be supporting some science curriculum work that we're starting, I think, 2 weeks from now. So we're very excited to have that partnership because it enables us to be able to provide feedback and have a tighter connection to what's happening at both the state and federal levels. So here's another trend that supports the great work that we've been doing here in the Interlake School District. The U.S. Department of Education requires that 95% of students who are eligible to sit for our summative assessments complete summative assessments. Under that threshold, if we fall below 95% for participation, each one of those students counts against our proficiency goals. So it's very important. This is where the state and the federal levels kind of have a little bit of a disconnect. In New Hampshire, we do allow families to opt out of assessment, but that counts. It's not a federally approved reason to not sit for the assessment. So that really impacts us negatively when we fall below the 95%.
So just pause for a second. So there's a big disconnect between the federal accountability and the state accountability. Just, I think it's important to realize those then count as zeros towards us.
Prior to COVID, so obviously that probably had some effect on why 90% of the people showed up for assessment eventually. What was it like back then? Do you have any idea, or do we have any data on that? Like, was it higher back in the 95s, or was it lower?
Oh, that's a great question. If we go that far back, it's a completely different test entirely. And during COVID, we paused the assessment.
Okay,
So there's a couple of years there where the data is a little wonky for sure.
Difficult to compare.
gotcha.
So at this point, I have the pleasure of handing this over to our elementary principals, Mr. Hilger and Mr. Bichet, who are going to share some of their points of influence.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay. So yeah, just to kind of hit a couple of highlights and we'll bounce some things back and forth because we have a lot of these pieces going at the same time. And of course, I'm highlighting things for which stuff was set up before I came here as well. And then thinking about those scores from last year and those parts. So one of the big pieces right now is continued integration of the SAS modulars. So our SAS test, which is grades 3 and up, right, that they're taking that test, and at the elementary level 3 through 6, those tests come out, we do those tests in the spring, but we have modular assessments that you can take along the way. And these have the benefit of being able to allow students to get a familiarity with the platform that they're taking an assessment on, both with the platform, but also the level of rigor that's expected. So we've been working on, and this is also part of the work through EAC, on setting up what that regular
Just
piece
pause
looks
for a
like.
second. EAC is,
The Elementary Advisory Council.
and so those are teacher leaders that work with our principals.
Right.
And
So I
at the middle high, it's PAC, Principal Advisory Council.
So I passed my quiz.
You did.
All right, awesome.
I was waiting for you to say committee, but you said council.
Yeah, there we go. All right, excellent. So yeah, we work with them to kind of define what does that mean to regularly put them in. So this month being November, we spend September and October kind of getting everything into the system to make it go. By this point, teachers should be beginning to be able to give that first opportunity to look at a modular. So if you think about grade 3, they've never been on that testing platform at all before, right? This comes spring, it's the first one that they'll take like that. So that really gives that opportunity for staff to be able to build that knowledge base with kids, so it's not so different from regular classroom once they get to it in the spring. Another piece is our in-house data wall management. So a data wall is where staff will look at, by grade level, look at a group of the kids that are there, and considering specific assessments that we've defined and said that we're going to look at, we make determinations about what levels of need that they might have in support. So the first step to it is kind of going through that assessment data with kids, do that a few times during the year. And the second step right after that is making some decisions about what to do to put in for supports, and then progress monitoring when things need to be addressed. Previously, that data wall management was supported by an outside consultant, and that's transitioned to full support within our buildings this year. So that's a win for us there because we always have that going. Increased student support through collaboration with Growing Roots, right? So this is some counseling service. There's significantly a need out there, and we've been able to grow that collaboration and supporting more and more students across both schools in terms of getting that support for kids, so that they can get mental health services that they need for that. So.
That's me.
All right.
Yeah, and I would just like to point out that this is the first year that Growing Roots has been at SCS, so would like to thank you guys for that support. And like Mr. Bichet said, there is a need, and having those professionals in the building does make a difference, so thank you. Year 2 of collaboratively designed literacy plans. I think the thing that excites us most about this is the teamwork that happens to set us up for success the next year. So in the spring of last year, and this is the second year in a row we've done this, myself and Ms. Papalardo and our reading specialist, we sit down and we begin to frame out what our literacy plan will look like for the following year. That includes goal setting. We make PD commitments about how we would like to spend our time and our resources. We take that, and then in collaboration with our superintendent and our elementary advisory council, we fine tune that into what we try to keep to a one-pager, and that becomes our guiding compass for our literacy work this school year. And we'll do that hopefully again next year. It seems to be working very well. Collaborative planning blocks, data teams, and interventions. If you remember, collaborative planning blocks are a contractual planning block. That's so 10 times a year. We can sit down with teachers during their planning time. We strategically
set those planning blocks up around data windows so that we can sit down with teachers, review data walls and data information, and then make plans for interventions for kids. So we've taken those 10 meetings and, like I said, strategically set them up around the year, around the important times that we hope will make the best and most difference for kids. Self-regulated strategy development, you may hear teachers or staff members talking about SRSD. SRSD is a explicit writing resource. It's not a program. It's like a train of thought. It's a series of acronyms. It's a way to get kids invested in their writing across subject areas with habits and, like I said, reminders in the form of acronyms to help them stay organized in their writing. And that is happening in both elementary schools right now. Staff have been trained, are being trained, and it's being implemented.
And it's also one that the state is supporting as well, right?
Correct. Evidence-based.
Yes.
Yes, evidence-based. And that is exciting because the more we dig into the SAS ELA test, we realize the importance that writing piece has, and this applies to all subject areas. Because you can write about science just as well as you can write about social studies or something you've read, or even mathematics. And we have recently, the three of us have been in contact with comparative elementary schools, schools that demographically are, could be compared to our elementary schools, but that performed better in one or both areas. And we've made some phone calls and connected with some administrators and garnered some information about the work that they're doing at their schools. So these are, our highlights for continued progress towards excellent. I think we each have one just additional highlight to share anecdotally.
Sure, yeah, I mean, it's in, it references page 7 there, which is in the growth and proficiency goals handout that you would have gotten.
For you, it is page 33.
Okay. Page 33 it is. There you
The
go.
Rosetta Stone tonight.
So one of the things that I'd like to I want to first refer back to this year 2 of collaborative of the literacy plan. Okay, so year 2. And the reason why I want to go back to that is because this is just now the second year. There's only one full year of work with that, and now the second year, and it's all of November. We think about our SAS testing, right? That's grades 3 through 6, right? So 3rd grade, that's the first time that the kids are going to take it. So what about that, pre-K or K through 2, and where does that fall, and how do we look at that? And that's one of the things that we can look at and see in the graphs up at the top of that page. This is talking about NEWA tests, okay? And so the NEWA MAP test is among those that we use for those early grades. And we can see that in both the math and the NEWA, we can see the percentage of students who met a benchmark of the 66th percentile. And that being the benchmark. Now, this, of course, is going to show up on a state SAS test, but it is stuff that's showing up here. And if you look at K and 1, you can see where those numbers are, where we've been able to put in these plans and strategies through the literacy plan, in addition to some math pieces, that we're seeing, 73 and 72% K and 1 within the NEWA math hitting there, and then within the reading, 65 and 62%. So we kind of have those glimmers of hope as that comes up through. I do want to address one piece, because if you dig into this, you'll see, well, wait a second here, those literacy ones aren't hitting that orange line. Aren't we supposed to get above the orange line? Right now, the goal, right, that we're aiming for, not the goal, but the mark of proficiency, like what do you got as a student, what percentile do you have to score to be considered proficient? And that's set at 66.11%. When these goals for this here were set last year, right? When they were set last year in the fall, they were set at 40, what was it, 41%? Yeah, the 41st percentile. So in that time, from the beginning of the year to the end of the year, NWA put out new recommendations saying that this is the 66 is the benchmark that you want to be thinking students to reach in order to be determined as proficient. So
Really 61 is the percentile. So they changed
Right,
it from, it's been pretty standard that the 41st percentile was considered proficient. Doing studies and so forth, they started to realize to set kids up for success on the New Hampshire state assessment, that there was a disconnect and that really the 61st percentile is more in line with meeting with success on the state assessment. So that was a big change. So our staff had the goal of 41 percentile, and that was our goal all last year. In the spring is when we realized that change. And so we implemented that for the start of this fall. So really we're measuring it against using the 61st percentile, but our staff didn't have that goal in place.
Right. So at the 41st percentile, they all, there were a lot better numbers there. Whereas here, this is the percentage of students at that, the higher 61st piece. But still, even with that, and with that not being the target at the time, we still have some really solid numbers in our kindergarten first grade as we up through. So.
And there are these, so this information, like second grade, right, on that graph, that's 2024, so those are the third graders today? Is that-
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
So they're taking the state assessments today. Those people
This
that
year.
scored, the grade that scored 46% say in reading are the third graders today now.
Correct.
That's correct.
Hey, could I ask for a clarification real quick? And I guess maybe I'm confusing a student scoring in a given percentile vice a percent of students that are proficient, like a percent of the population that is proficient. So if we look at, and I'm looking at page 33 of the packet, the spring 24 NEWA math chart as an example. For K1 and 2, are we saying that 73% that the proficiency bar was set at 51.9% and 73% of the kindergartners scored above that? Or are we saying that the average score of the kindergarten class was the 73rd percentile? And I don't know if there's really a difference between the two, but I don't know. I'm just wrapping my head around the statistics and the continued use of the word percentage, percentile kind of thing.
73% of the kindergarten students hit the 61st percentile or above. So 73%.
The 61st, Mary, or the 50th, because that's what's articulated on the line.
Brought up the math as
He was looking
a.
at the math,
Yeah.
not the reading.
He switched to
I
math.
see what he's saying.
Yeah, but it's the 61st percentile. So if you hit the 61st percentile or above, we consider you having met or exceeded the goal.
So
Where does
why-
61 come from? As I look at the spring 2024 NEWA math, where does 61 come from?
61 comes from what has been set with NWA to be proficient or above.
But our target is to have 51.9% of the class achieve that
Correct.
percentile.
So we far exceeded that
Yeah,
percent.
right.
So that 51.9% is the same that the state has set for the New Hampshire SAS. So the state has set 51.9% of your students should be proficient or above. So we're using that marker so that we're being consistent, that we're saying to staff, 51.9% of your K-2 students need to be at the 61st percentile or better.
And we're saying 73% of those students
Correct. So we far exceeded it in kindergarten, we far exceeded it in first grade, given that actually, when they were working on the goal, it was at the 41st percentile. However, what we are reporting out on is on the 61st percentile. It's confusing.
It's health insurance.
Yeah. I think, again, I think we should feel very strong performance for K and 1. Grade 2, we changed the bar. I think that will easily be integrated into the rigor and so forth that they're seeing in the second grade. So I anticipate next year that number to be higher.
And just really quickly, Ed, you asked where the 61st percentile comes from. It's in the top in the paragraph. If you didn't see that.
40. Okay. Oh, in the text. Okay. I was like by spring 51. Okay. You're saying 2 lines above that 61st to a line with emergent. Okay. Got it. Thank you.
And I just wanted to share, anecdotally, couple of examples of the increased level of investment of staff and students around preparing and, executing this test. Last year, we started, Erica and I started to see more and more staff members diving into modular data, trying to figure out where their kids were at, what was strong, what needed work. And when they saw something they didn't understand, they would come to us. If we couldn't answer it, we would go to the state, and the state would respond, I would say, relatively quickly, compared to years in the past. So we have this new level of investment from staff members to try to figure out how the tool works, where the kids are at. And from a student perspective, if Mary has not shared this anecdote with you yet, I will share it, and I think it's good to hear it more than once. Last third grade classroom, first time taking it, ELA test, student gets their writing prompt. Now, they could have gotten a narrative, they could have got a persuasive piece, or they could have got an informational writing prompt. And the teacher notices that the third grader is head down and is very, very upset, and goes over and says, what's wrong? And the student said, I didn't get narrative. I wanted narrative. Now, none of us want third graders upset when they're taking a test, but what my takeaway was, that student knew the 3 forms of writing so well, that student knew what one they wanted, and when they didn't get it, they were upset. And I felt like that was a prepared student. The funny part is the kid next to her goes, I got narrative, you can have mine. But it doesn't work. An increased level of investment from both staff and students.
And just to share, a writing prompt that was in 7th grade was to summarize a time that you had handled a crisis. And that is one that is not incredibly sensitive to some students who have had some significant trauma in their life. And so that is definitely feedback that was given to the state, that maybe a different prompt in 7th grade. I think another one in 7th grade was to talk about a time that you saw a marching band. Now, marching bands are pretty common, and not all students get to go to the Sandwich Fair and see that. And so that can start to have an equity issue. And so those are feedback that has been sent to the state. Erica has been an amazing conduit and really developed, incredible relationships there that when she does reach out, it is definitely received in a really credible way. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we have 7:12.
I get the clicker? Sure. I only have one slide. Oh, this is our newest drone photo this year. We organized all the kiddos out on the turf. All right, so talking a little bit about some of the motivation that we've started to try and build around the New Hampshire SAS in the middle high school. It kind of goes back to what Jeremy was sharing about just trying to change the mindset and the motivation behind why this is important and having those explanations with kids and increasing engagement. And I agree that the motivation that we've seen in our students and our staff to expose kids more to working in the modules, getting used to the test platform itself, and practice hours has increased exponentially. Last year, we set up a big bulletin board outside of the main office, and we just had 3 visuals that were buckets. And the buckets, every time we asked, instead of setting proficiency goals, which I was kind of geared toward, like, let's just set up a cut that we want the kids to make, and then we'll incentivize it. But the idea, as we refined it and talked about it more as a team, to just really motivate students by utilizing practice hours inside of school, on their spare time, including sharing that with the parents, what I did is created a system so kids could self-report to me, parents could report to me, and then of course teachers could report how much time they were spending practicing for New Hampshire SAS. And I won't read some of this verbatim, but the amount of hours that kids were willing to spend on their own time, that parents we sent home like examples and ways for parents to log in and look at questions. Like some families were doing them at dinner time. Like I won't say that that's pervasive, but there was certainly a group of kids that were like, if we meet this goal for our practice hours, Dr. Darn is going to give us a field day, was what we had kind of settled on. Juniors, I offered early senior privileges, and the juniors shared with me that it just wasn't enough for them to really spend a lot of time on major SAS practice hours. So I am working on incentivizing with my upperclassmen. I'll have to talk with them a little bit more to see what would really move them. But our 7th and 8th grade teachers and students really jumped into the incentivization piece, and I would fill the bucket every time I did the hours. I go out the red marker, and I will tell you that 7th and 8th grade almost met the goal. It was very, very close. And I'll just share a couple pieces that I think are important to note. In 2023, we had students do 59 hours to practice with the New Hampshire SAS math models. Last year, 279. So that's a big jump in the amount of time that kids are getting in practicing, some at home, some with their teachers, some completely independently. So just kind of creating that incentive and motivating the kiddos and our staff to understand how important it is. And it's definitely, I think, just kind of becoming a part of our culture. We've already got students and teachers digging into it completely independently already in November. I haven't created an incentive for this year. I will, but it's just nice to see that it's kind of riding the coattails of last year. Some other pieces is the reading and writing support with Dr. Wood, and Dr. Wood has a paraeducator who has some significant experience working with students with reading deficiencies, and she is also working with students independently, which has been wonderful for students that have reading goals. They get additional time with her. They're pushing in, pulling out, and we're utilizing both Dr. Wood and this reading paraeducator as much as we possibly can.
And Dr. Wood is our reading specialist at the middle high and Sandwich.
For our graduation rate, I think that what we want to speak about here is the concentration on that number. Am I correct? And how for us, while the graduation rate number may look different than it does in other schools, it's important to realize that when we have a student who chooses an alternative pathway, like Carroll County, to get the high set, used to be the GED, that unfortunately does not count in our graduation rate, which is really unfortunate because that's an alternative pathway for kids where they're leaving school, but they're still meeting standards to get out there and get the gateway that they need to secondary education or a career. So I think that an important piece to note is that the reason that looks that way is that we do have a few students each year who choose that as a pathway, but it's a pathway that we help with, that we set kids up with tutoring for, and that we even occasionally help figure out transportation to get to certain classes. And it is just a piece of why that number looks the way that it does.
And that is page 38, the blue 38 in your packet. So for 2024, our graduation rate was 88.74%. And again, we're small, so a couple students with a different pathway has a big impact.
And obviously with every effort we have available to us, we make sure that we're catching all kids and finding, any alternative that we can for them to make sure that they can meet some sort of success to end their high school career. Any questions about that piece?
Yeah, do we not get to see what percentage of kids are going for the high set?
In that data?
Yeah.
I don't believe so, no.
But we can get that for you.
I mean, the average I would say is maybe 2
Yes.
a school year. And that's right off the cuff, but it's minimal.
We'll send you the information about the class of 2024.
Our college and career, this is about the college and career readiness markers. Eric, I'm gonna ask if you don't mind to speak a little bit more to that in his absence.
Yeah, there are a few, there's maybe like 8 different markers that the Department of Education identifies as considering that a student has met college and career readiness. And there are a number of them, so a couple of examples. One would be a student who meets the benchmark proficiency on the SAT exam. So if they meet the markers for readiness, that would count as a marker. The state basically takes the number of students who have met 2 markers over their high school career and then makes that a percentage out of all of the students in the cohort. So other markers include things like our students who attend like a Hewitt program and exit that with a certificate, an industry recognized certification in a field, of which we've got quite a few students who do. Students who score a level 3 or higher on the AP exam would be another marker that counts as a college and career readiness marker. Again, many students who enroll in our AP courses do meet that criteria. So over the course of their 4-year academic history, we track those things. And so every time they earn another marker, once they have 2, that again counts toward our percentage of students who, according to our department with that definition, meet college and career readiness.
And on page 38, you'll notice in 2022, we were 31%. We know we had more students. We had an internal issue with how we were gathering that information. So we worked to improve that, and you see that reflected in 23 and 24.
Yeah, that jumped out at me. I was gonna ask about that,
Yes.
just what do we do different? Obviously, that's a positive, but even from last year, to this year, that's a huge jump. Like, what are we doing anything different?
We're improving our collection.
Yes.
Just tracking, all right.
So
And
certainly a
I
lot
would say
happening in that vein.
opportunities as well. We
Yeah.
have a lot of students who are taking more advantage of opportunities as well.
That was a good open-ended answer, right? You guys, that's gonna be props then. Pump yourselves up.
Well, we actually dug back in because with
Yeah.
that percentage, one more student would have put us
Put us-
over to the next.
Okay.
And we
Four
tried.
rating,
pretty
which-
frustrating.
Yeah, it was, because we deserve it. We do, our guidance department, our school in general does a lot for that college and career readiness piece. And sorry, circling back, I made myself a couple notes to the motivation for New Hampshire SAS. Something back to when Erica was speaking about our 95% of the population participating in these tests. It was kind of evident last year that often a parent would call, opt a student out, and that would be the end of that conversation because we are required to allow the opt-out. So a practice that we started last year and have really continued, and that I do think has been a really important part of shifting the culture, especially with our families with that piece, is saying, hey, do you understand like the impact that students sitting for these exams have on us as a school and accountability and what people look at when they look at our report cards? Alicia White, our registrar, and Linda Otten, our dean of learning, have had some really good conversations with families and changed some minds, which has been great. Oh, well, that's important. They should sit for that test because often I think too, sometimes the narrative is kiddos know, right? That they're savvy in 7th, 8th grade, 11th grade, they know. They go home and they're like, hey, I really don't want to take this test. And for some, if they don't see the relevance in it, or if they, you have some juniors that are like, well, I'm not, these scores, what are they going to do for me? Having those conversations with the families and the kids and making people aware of the stakes has been, I think, really integral. And we have brought back, like we said before, 2 or 3 kids is a lot with these percentage points, and we brought some families back to it. So, and we're going to continue. As I said, I haven't created an incentive for this year yet, but that will be next.
We may have to pull some students to see what is high stakes, so maybe.
Yeah, I haven't talked to these juniors.
Some information.
I might suggest, we've certainly given the board a lot of information. We don't actually have our standings yet from the state. They're supposed to come out the 15th of November. We had hoped before this meeting. There's a lot to digest. Maybe it'd be helpful to come back in December and just talk about the federal accountability side of this, how this translates into 2s and 3s, and go from there. Would you? Certainly, whatever the wishes are of the board, but
We might have more people in attendance at that time.
it's just a lot to take in too. So.
That would be the end then.
I'm sorry. So I do want to, I want to thank the community for telling us that these scores are important. That was an important missing link for us, I think. hearing from the community that these are important helps us to make sure we're committing the time to them. I want to thank all of our staff for investing into the goals and working diligently towards them, and certainly the administrators for really leading this work. So those are just some highlights that I.
Thank you.
And I would say, Erica, too, I think your opening comment of, I forget how you said it, but it's steady progress. It's slow and steady wins the race, I guess, in this game, it seems to me.
It is, and it's research-based as well. It's shown that schools that kind of do a massive effort to kind of wildly change everything aren't able to sustain things. And so it is research-based that making gradual shifts along the way with stakeholder feedback and using evidence-based strategies is really the way to go.
That
So,
sticks.
Exactly.
Yeah, great. Thank you very much. That was great. Thank you all.
And I didn't mention it, but our staff should be commended too for all of the buy-in and the help and jumping into the modules and really starting to also recreate that culture at school. It's been fun to watch the engagement increase for sure.
Great. Thank you. All right, we're on to new business, 2025-26 budget process calendar. Mrs. Dahl.
In your packet on page 42 starts the proposed budget development calendar. I'm happy to answer any questions. If you have any, there's no motion or anything, so it's just informational.
Great. Any questions for Ashley? Hearing none. Tuition rate memo.
Okay, so that is on page 44 of your packet, and there is an attachment. The tuition rates are set by the DOE 25, the year-end financial report that we that we have to submit to the state. And so based on that information.
Is that report submitted to the Department of Education or?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes,
Thank you.
sorry, when I said the state Department of
Yeah.
Education, yes. And so these are the proposed rates for the 24-25 school year.
And we have to ratify these, right?
This is a motion, correct? There's, yeah.
Any questions for Ashley about this? If not,
How does, sorry, how does this play into the discussion for the budget for next year? I think I think what we're saying here is as we look to increase the tuition rate, that looks to increase the overall budget for the school, and that plays into the tax rate. Is that a true statement? Am I following the line correctly?
No, we are calculating what it costs per student for tuition if we've had somebody who was not a resident and the board approved for them to be a tuition student, what that would cost based on what it cost last year. And the form has some things like it equalizes, so it's a process, a formula that they use to come up with that. But it is not,
Who's
has
they?
nothing with this year's
The
budget.
Department of Education.
State, or I presume the state department or the federal department?
But this is just setting the rate for the out-of-district tuition that would be paid by families if they chose to come into our
If
district.
the board approves.
And it is
them.
based on a formula that is created by the State Department of Education.
Correct, and you can always waive it, you have that option, but this is a way to come up with what that number is.
Okay, I understand. Thank you.
great.
I would just say, there has been a history of discussing whether we wanted to, as a district, seek families from other districts to come in, and whether we would change that. And that's been a complicated question over many, many years. But this is just what the state says. We have to have a number, and that number is based on this formula of what we spent last year, and this is it.
Using that methodology.
I entertain a motion to approve this.
Oh, motion it.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Locke. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you. We are all good.
Thank you.
I think it might be a good idea to wait before you ask for the oppose. Just
To the
because
delay.
it keeps.
Oh, because there's
Yeah.
the delay.
Yeah.
Thank
Although
you.
Ed, it's helpful that you were saying aye and opposed, so.
Got it, Duncan. Thank you. I'll try to continue that.
All right, next up, we have a donation item. Do you want to speak to this? You want me to just say it, Mary?
I'm happy to just share. It's a generous donation from the PTO to host an individual to come and do a presentation at ILES.
Nice.
All right.
Any questions about the donation? Anybody want to make a motion to approve this?
I will move to accept it with great gratitude.
Second.
All right. Sleep at the wheel over there, Jim. You haven't been up since 2:32, have you? Any other discussion?
I've only been home one day in the last 10, but.
All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed?
Now we got
Unanimous.
it, we got it.
Next up, we have a number of gifts for the Light It Up Lakers campaign. Mary, you want to comment about that in general?
What I can say is total donations to date are close to $4,000. Total pledges to date are $108,000. So combined, that's almost $112,000. So we're shooting for about $376,000.
So I think I should read the individuals.
I think
since
I would
they-
appreciate that.
Right, so we have Matthew Donnelly in the amount of $500, Bruce Jones in the amount of $55, Joseph King in the amount of $125, Sandra Lovering in the amount of $15, Eric Lundgren in the amount of $500, Greg Sedermersky in the amount of $25, Gail and Scott Spears in the amount of $50, Homecoming Silent Auction in the amount of $435, Homecoming Cash Bucket in the amount of $237.83. Less GoFundMe fees in the amount of $39.25. And then we got, the 1903.58 was the summation of the Grandparents Club.
Yeah,
That was
yeah.
from the Grandparents Club.
Correct.
Then from the Interlakes Athletic Booster Club, Noah Jones, class of 2030, donated $130.31. Zachary Jones, class of 2032, in the amount of $130.31. And then donations sent directly to the superintendent's office, Stephen Gasco in the amount of $250, Andrew C. Gressinger in the amount of $500, Hope Khan in the amount of $500, Francis and Donna Murphy in the amount of $50, and Allison Ron Valpy in the amount of $500. Anyone want to make a motion to accept these donations with gratitude? Or did you already do that, Duncan?
You do that with the other donation.
Oh, that was the other.
I do. I'm
Excellent.
grateful and we're all grateful.
Great,
I'll second that.
excellent. Any other discussion?
I want to know why the Booster Club amounts are so precisely at 130.31.
I'm looking at that thinking that might be two little nuggets who went in on a pot and then split it. Maybe did some work or
Broke open a piggy bank.
broke open a piggy. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. That looks like two little kids who donated a lot of allowance or did some work. That's my thought.
But they're both the same precise amount.
Because they're
Brothers.
brothers.
Oh,
Brothers.
I think, yeah.
Oh, yeah, don't donations. Got it.
All right.
I'm the one who's gonna wait since 2:30.
All right, we're gonna vote. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you all very much.
Thank you. And thank you to all of our donors.
Next up, we have policy, second and final readings for temporary alternative duty and graduation requirements. Anybody want to make a motion?
Yes.
Thank you, Siobhan. Anybody want to second it? Seconded by Jim.
Why am I the fastest one?
Any discussion on these two policies? Hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? All approved.
Thank you.
We're proposing to rescind the following policies because they will be moving to a hiring procedures manual. Hiring policy, non-certified positions, hiring for athletic assignment, hiring policy, teaching positions, continuing contract for teacher, part-time personnel job and fringe benefits, emergency care, call-in pay for custodians and maintenance personnel, evaluation of non-certified personnel, and staff identification.
I move as presented.
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded. Any questions or comments about these policies to rescind? Hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? We took them to the woodshed. Okay. Next up, we have correspondence, which there doesn't appear to be any. That's okay. All right, and it is now 7:06, so we've fulfilled our half-hour commitment. Mr. Parsons, is there anybody online?
See none.
Last chance, folks, you're sitting in the peanut gallery. Anybody have a comment, question? All right, hearing none, I'm closing public comment at 7:06. Announcements. Our next board meeting is, we have an SAU meeting Monday, November 18th in Ashland. And then Tuesday, December 10th, we have two meetings that day. We have the SAU 2 budget hearing which starts at 5, before our regular school board meeting, which starts at 5:30. Any questions on the upcoming schedule? Ed, did you hear all that?
I did. Thank you.
Yes, sir. All right, so we still have some non-public information to go over, so would somebody make a motion to go into non-public?
I'll put that forward.
Thank you, Siobhan.
Second it.
Seconded, Duncan, please poll the,
Mr. Locke?
Yeah.
Ms. Connolly?
Yeah.
I vote yes. Mr. Twaddell? Voting
Yes.
to go into public?
yes.
We're in non-public. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Twaddell, we will end this meeting and then I'll join you in the other link.
Okay. Thank you.
Great job, you guys.
I
More hard work.
Yeah.